Unless you've shared a room with a sibling growing up, having a college roommate might be your first time living in close quarters with someone, and it's someone you will have just met. So, with ways to make that work, from Connecticut College, we're happy to have the Director of Residential Life there, Eric Barnes. Eric, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, glad to have you. And while I bet you we could probably spend 20 minutes just hearing anonymized horror stories that you've seen about roommates getting along, not getting along, things you've seen, I want to talk about how to make that smooth. So what are some of the first steps an incoming college freshman can take, or even, upperclassmen if they're living with someone new for the first time, to make sure things go smoothly?
Yeah, I think it starts with an understanding that you are not alone in this situation. They likely also have never lived with somebody. So you're all trying to navigate this new living experience. And I think the big thing that we see most frequently is communication. You have to be able to talk to each other. Oftentimes you will be learning each other's quirks and habits and routines. And so just as they're learning yours, you're learning theirs. And so it's important just to have a communication. If something is bothering you, talk to your roommate. They cannot fix or change anything without them knowing. And I think that really starts building that trust and that relationship with each other early on, and kind of setting the boundaries that what you're willing to have happen in the room, what you're not willing to have happen in the room, really can kind of set that foundation and have you have a successful living situation.
Yeah. I imagine doing your fair share of cleaning is a big part of that, but I also got to imagine different people have different ideas of what constitutes clean, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Be specific when you're talking. Saying I don't like messes isn't very helpful to the other person, because a mess could be different for each person. So be very specific about what you're expecting out of cleanliness. Who's going to be responsible for taking trash out? Who's going to be responsible for wiping down surfaces, sweeping the floor? And so having your list of chores is helpful to split up the workload and also be able to hold each other accountable for making sure that things are getting done within the space.
What about guests at dorm rooms?
Yeah, guest always can be a welcomed part of living with a roommate, or it can be part of the contention that can happen and conflicts that arise. If you want to have social events in your room, or you want to have guests over, talk with your roommates first to make sure that everybody is comfortable with doing that. Also be clear about what is acceptable as far as having guests. How late do you want guests to be over? How many guests in the room? Do you want guests of an opposite gender? Are you comfortable with that? And I think it's very important, as I said earlier, be very honest. If you are forcing yourself into a situation in which you're unhappy or uncomfortable, it's just going to lead to problems with your living situation and confusion for your roommates if you've agreed to something and then later are saying that it's not okay. So be very upfront what you're comfortable with, and always know the resources if you're having a difficult time communicating any of these concerns. There's always staff around that are trained and happy and willing to be able to facilitate some of these conversations.
And while communicating what you want, obviously, like you said, is important, what about being more proactive in trying to make your roommate comfortable, like more of a give and take mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about recognizing who all is living in the space, and compromise is the key in any situation. You may not always get what exactly it is that you want from the situation, but coming to a compromise that you feel is appropriate and livable is the key here. And so recognizing that you may have to sacrifice going to bed at 8 p.m. when your roommate wants to go to bed at midnight, that compromise in the middle of 10 p.m., no guest, is probably the best way to manage the spectrums of differences that you might encounter with a roommate.
Yeah, I can imagine so. And once again, boy, I wish we could get horror stories. I don't know if you have any, but I got to imagine, having gone through college myself many, many years ago, it seems impossible to avoid. But thank you so much. Like I said, we're focusing on the positive, Mr. Barnes. Thank you for taking the time just to give some incoming college freshmen and other first-year students a good look at what they need to do to make sure life goes easy, because in many ways you're stuck with that roommate for a while, aren't you?
Absolutely.